blending. Let's talk about it. Years ago, we never used to do this. What we used to do, you used to get fitted for whatever model of iron you were fitted into, for whatever manufacturer. And within reason, you'd have them from the gap wedge, pitching wedge, all the way up to, say, 4 iron, 3 iron. And at the very most, we used to stop it at one point and say, right, you might want to go into a hybrid. Now it's changed somewhat. Blending has become a lot more sexy over the last few years. And now we are much more looking at sets of golf clubs where potentially people have a more forgiving iron in the harder to hit irons like the 4 and 5 and potentially 6. So it now doesn't become a point of where do you stop for needing a hybrid. It can be a point of at what point do you go to the next helpful iron up to help with strike issues when the shaft gets a bit longer and trying to flight the ball up a bit higher because of the centre of gravity is lower and further back and all that lot. So in my bag there, I've got a full range of JPX921 clubs, and I'll go into the lofts. I'll probably pop those lofts up on the screen. So I've got the ES21 wedges in the 60 and 55. I've then got a JPX921 Tour in the gap wedge, pitching wedge and 9. I've then got the JPX921 Forge in the 8 and 7, and then I've got the JPX921 Hot Metal in the 5 and 6. And I've also got a little surprise here, which is the JPX Fly High direct iron replacement idea. And the whole idea of that is that potentially, as I've got there, you could, although I wouldn't necessarily suggest it, but you could, if you wanted to, have a full set of irons using nearly the complete set of the family. I've got GC Quad on the floor and I've got FSX Mobile down there as well. And I'm just going to do a little gap session just to sort of show you what I'm using, and even though it's range balls, and it won't, obviously range balls aren't consistent, but then we're going to go in the custom fitting studio, my little room, and I'm going to do a proper gapping session. I probably won't put it on camera because it'll be massively long, but we'll get the results because I haven't done that yet. And some of them I haven't even hit yet. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how the gappings work. I don't know if they work at all. As I say, I've got the lofts that I've got them in to try and gap them best as possible, because obviously we're talking about somewhat different lofts. And we can have a conversation if we need about offset and bounce and stuff like that. But you can do that in the comments below if you want. So let's go get hitting. Let's go get the balls going, get the old everything set up, and yeah, let's have some fun. Okay, ES21 wedge first in my hand. Now obviously they make 2 of these different types. They make wide sole and standard sole, and of course this is their funky new wedge where the centre of gravity is right in the middle, as in a case of if you took the head out of this shaft, there's a little logo at the back. Looks like a BMW logo, but it's not, obviously for certain reasons. But you could then balance the head. I'll see if I can get the video and put it on there. Anyway, so we're just going to do a quick gappy session. Only needs 1 shot per, because if not we'll be here all day. But so yeah, we'll get up on the old screen. Let's go have a hit of this one. Shall I put them back in? No, I can't be bothered. I'll put them all back in later. Right, now we go to the 55. Again, this ES21 wedge only comes in higher lofts because the centre of gravity idea doesn't work in like a 50. Hence why I've got a JPX921 gap in there. Right, 55. Yep, right, next one. So now I've got into JPX921 gap wedge. So I've gone 60, 55, I think this is 51. This is the only one that I couldn't get properly gapped for like a 4-4 or 5-5 anyway. Not quite sure how far these will go with range balls. I tell you what though, ES21 feels nice and soft. These do feel nice. These are the pure actual forge ones. I'm pretty certain the ES21's got boron in it. They do feel a little bit clippy, but nothing too bad. Yeah, they've got a little bit of boron in there. Like all their wedges have, to try and keep the groove sharp, etc. when it comes to spin. The thing that we all love to talk about. Right, okay, so JPX921 forged Tour, sorry, again, but this is in the pitching wedge, so I'll go have another little hit-a-roo. Yeah, still forged. It feels lovely. Feels like a classic Mizuno forging. It's not until you get into the upper ones where you start losing this. But that's the whole idea, remember, when certain people think about using certain clubs for playability, workability, consistent scoring irons, all that malarkey. So now into the last 91 tour, into the 9 iron. I can't remember what was the loft. I think if I can flick over, 41. So 51, 46, 41. So last one of the tours. Yeah, it feels just, again, taking slight loft off now. It feels nice. Feels like every other normal forging. Now we're going to go up into the 8 iron. Now 8 iron now goes in JPX921 forged, and the loft is 36. So we've got a gap of 5. So with ES21, we went 60, 55, obviously 5 degrees. Then we went to 51 in the Tour gap wedge to try and get it right as best I could do. That's 4 degrees. But now we're going 5, 5, and then 36 from 41. That's another 5. Right, so let's go hit the forge. Now this one now has got the, I think if I remember, it's in 7 iron when they actually turned into chromoly world. So this is still the forging. Oh yeah, that's a powerful flight, even for a range ball. That's very, he's starting to fly up now. Just add a little bit of help. Now we go into 7 iron. The 7 iron in the 921 forged has actually got the chromoly in it. I'll just double check. It has, yes. So the between 8 and pitch and wedge, etc., it doesn't have chromoly in it. They're saying because of the lots of loft, deflection, you don't really use all the benefits of chromoly. Plus as well, you want to, as best you can, you want to try and keep things as consistent as possible because they're your scoring irons. So this is the 7 iron. This is set at 31 degrees. So relatively strong, what I would call strong, because my my blades are 34. But let's see if we can feel a difference now going from 8 to 7. Yes, there's an audible difference. Slightly, I don't want to say cracky, because it's not, it's just a slightly higher pitched, it's not like a dead dull 921 Tour. There is a little bit of punch to it. Did it put me off? No, not at all. But now we get into the hot metal pros. So this is the 6 iron, which is, if I remember, 27 degrees. So we're now jumping to 4 degrees. Now bear in mind, if you look at normal gappings of normal irons anyway, they normally go 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 3, 3 at one point, or 5, 5, 5, 4, 4, 3, because that's how the steppings of longer irons go. You don't need so much difference in loft to make a big difference anyway. I could get into it technically, but there's no point. So this is now the hot metal 6 iron. Make sure I have got the right one out of the bag. I ain't got a clue how far these are going. They're range balls. Yeah, definitely a higher flight. Now we're starting to see the difference of, yeah. But it's doing what it should do. It's doing what it should do. The whole idea of the hot metals, it's supposed to help get the ball up there. And when you don't hit the middle, still go that way. So now last one, 5 iron. Still the JPX921 hot metal. What's the old loft of that? 24 degrees. I really hope that everything's recording in the background. Multitasking on your phone's probably not a good idea. Fingers crossed. Yeah, so 24 degrees. 3 degrees difference. This might be much more powerful now. Oh yeah. That's flighting up there now. That is flighting up there now. Even with the range ball that's going. So, this is where you'd normally either go to a 4 or you'd stop. However, no. What I've got in this little bag here, it's called a little fly high. Now, because of the lofts and how the lofts work with strengthening, etc., I haven't gone just from 5 to 4 because the difference is on a fly high. The fly highs, because they are basically hybrids, but in the length of an iron, they are quite powerful when it comes to the faces. So I've gone from a 5 hot metal pro to a 5 fly high. Yeah, because if you look at the difference, brave wasp. The difference between a 24 degree Hot Metal Pro and a 22.5 degree one of these. Now the difference with one of these though, oh very, got ya. Sorry. For all you wasp lovers out there. Yeah. So this is a 22.5 degree and the Pro, Hot Metal Pro, is 24. Now there's only 1.5 degrees difference. However, because of the explosive nature of one of these kids, you don't need much difference to make quite a big difference. So if you went to the 4, the gapping would be too big. Now, generally this is on experience. I haven't tested this yet, and we won't know until we do the actual gapping to see how much difference it really makes. But I had to make a decision when ordering something, so I had to use experience and my best guess. Anyway. Oh yeah, that is ripped. It's going a long way even for a range ball. Makes it a lot easier to hit, makes things a lot easier to flight. They go up a considerable amount of difference. So what you guys need to take from this, especially this end, is I think they have got this in the 7 iron, 7.654. If you guys don't swing very quick, test it. Give it a test. Anyway, so I have now completely taken out my entire golf bag. What we're going to do now, I'm going to put them all back again. I'm going to go in my custom fitting room and I'm going to do a proper gapping session with myself and just hit a certain amount of balls. There's no need to go crazy, but let's go skip to there where I have a look at the report to see how close my idea was and if we need to do a bit of tweaking here and there potentially to get all the gappings correct. So after hitting now a lot of shots, doing the gap test, it's an interesting one, purely because some of these I haven't hit before. When I say I haven't hit before, the shots you saw me hit outside were the very first shots on some of them I've ever hit. I'm going to put the results up on the screen now. So there we go. I've got them up on my phone for ease of viewing for me. The lob wedge, which is the ES60 with the wide sole, that went 91 yards. And then from that to the 55 degree, so 5 degrees of difference, was 11 yards, went 91 point something and 102 point something to round up, but yeah, there's 11 yards between that, and then there was 9 yards between the 55 and then the gap. Now the biggest difference here was the fact that there was 14 yards. Now we're into the JPX921 from the gap to the 9. There was a 14-yard jump between the gap wedge of the 91 Tour and then the pitching wedge. Yet, if we can zoom in on the gap wedge ones, when I actually done the test for the gap wedge, I hit 4 shots. The first 3 I didn't really catch. It was the first time I'd really hit the gap wedge, and then the last one I hit normally. You can see there from the map as such that if you take those 3 out, the ones that I wouldn't normally hit, just like the very first time give or take that I've hit it, and hit the normal ones which I'll be expecting to, that last one, that one that goes kind of in between where I'd want it to go. So would I look at adjusting the loft of the gap wedge to try and merge it? No. I just need to get used to the clubs a bit more to be able to give like a proper number. Obviously I can't do this video 6 months after using them because obviously there'd be a massive delay. So that is, from my point of view, more to do with the drop off on the gap wedge. It's nothing actually to do with the wrong loft. It's more to do with me getting used to it. So then you've got the pitching wedge. You've got 12 yards between the pitching wedge and the 9. That the pitching wedge 9 is still on the Tour. Now we go from the 9 to the 8. That is now the JPX921 forged. Still in the 8, remember, it's the 1025E, not with chromoly yet. That's in the 7. So you've got between 9 and the 8, you've got 13 yards, and then between the 8 and the 7, you've got 15 yards. So within reason, you can see the gaps are getting slightly bigger, and you could attribute that to the chromoly making maybe a yard or 2 more. Again, 7 to 6. The 7 iron is the JPX921 forged with the chromoly, and then the 6 is the JPX921 hot metal with chromoly, and there was 14 yards between them. This is where it gets now a little bit interesting, because there's only 8 yards between this 6 iron Hot Metal Pro and the 5 iron Hot Metal Pro. Both got chromoly. Now if you look at necessarily where they all are, actually the 5s were grouped very, very well, and the 6s were grouped well for distance. They were just a little bit off left and right, but again, we're talking about taking the loft off, and when you take loft off, that's what happens, dispersion starts. But there's only 8 yards in it, because we've now get the JPX Fly High 5, which is technically a 4. Yeah, because you've got another 8 yards there. So you could argue on this, depending on how picky you want it to be, you could probably take one of those out. Now, with the flights of these, I would possibly, so I'll be torn between, I like the added height of the JPX Fly High. Where is it? It's over here somewhere, there it is. I like the added height from this, from the direct long iron replacement, and the forgiveness of it. But I like the 5 irons clustering. I do like the hot metals clustering. When I was hitting it, I felt like it hit that little baby fade to a very, very tight grouping. As you can see there, it is pretty good. But then if you look at the 4, which is the JPX Fly High 5 technically, you can see there the distance control on it is great. Absolutely great, and that becomes purely from the forgiveness of the head. I can misstrike that 4/5/4 iron more and still get away with it because of the head design. So when it comes, I could do, if you want to, I could on a different video, if you want to know all the difference with peak heights, I can tell you. So basically, as we were going up in forgiveness of golf club, from going from the tour to the forged to the hot metal, peak heights were noticeably keeping up there, where normally on if we were going through tours through the whole set, they would start to drop down. But as you're starting using technology to try and keep the ball going up in the air, keep it carrying, keep peak height in, and with that descent angle, controlling it the other end, we're gaining the advantages of using the more forgiving end. So this is a very, very aggressive blending. Would I say to do this to a normal person? Probably not. This is basically to sort of showcase from a blending point of view what is capable nowadays when it comes to irons, what you can do. You can go from pure proper player's iron in the lower irons and then go to something which is like direct long iron replacement in the 5/4 and then use every iteration or range of golf clubs within the family in between. So yeah, if you want me to do sort of more data on that, I can do, pop in the comments, and if you want me to do another video about it, of course I will do. But yeah, so hope you like that one. A bit more data driven, but it just goes to show necessarily that you can use blended sets to increase your performance when it comes to miss hits. Understanding what you do miss hit wise, obviously very, very important. But yeah, work with your coach and your custom fitter to make sure you get the right set for you. So I hope you liked that one. If you did, click the little like button below. Also way down there, little red button. Which way is it? Not quite sure. That's to subscribe. Click that one, and also next to it, while you're there, little bell. If you click that bell icon, that'll let you know next time I upload another video. So hope you will, and we'll see you again soon.